Proposal to increase Bali tourist tax. What? And national data disruption affects airports. Stay tuned for details on these and more. Selamat siang. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is June 22nd, 2024, and my name is Bruce. And what is the weather like today? A little hazy, but 30.3 degrees Celsius, 70% humidity, wind speed 14.4 kilometers per hour, and all in all, not too bad. And some interesting news that is viral, of course, and all over, not about problems with foreigners. Well, actually, it does relate to problems with foreigners, but there's a tourist tax, and what is happening with the tourist tax, and a proposal to raise the tourist tax from 150,000 to 750,000. So let's take a look at that, and there are actually three separate articles that I'm going to talk about. And, well, I just picked three out of about 8 that I found this morning. And so first one, potential levies on foreign tourists amounting to 186 billion rupiahs lost. The Bali Province Tourism Office, DISPAR, right, will conduct a more in-depth study of the Bali DPRD's proposal regarding increasing the Bali tourist tax, or the levy, whatever you want to call it, for foreign tourists. Since it was implemented on February 14th, only around 40% of foreign tourists have paid the 150,000 per person. Under these conditions, Bali has lost a potential of around 186 billion rupiah. Head of the Bali Province Tourism Service, Pak Pamayun, talk about all the time, he said the proposed increase in the levy value requires further study. We have to do another study, not just all at once, so that we can see where the figure comes from, because there must be a calculation whether the figure is reasonable so that it doesn't burden tourists. The increase is not a matter of whether it is right or not related to efforts to improve the quality of tourists, he said. Said this 2 days ago on Thursday. Pak Pamayun said since the implementation of the tourist tax, 124 billion rupiah have been collected up through the 19th of June. And this is about 40%, as I said just a minute ago. Pak Pamayun said from January to May, Bali received about 2.2 million tourists, and 40% of those are paying, 60% are not. He said to overcome this problem, he proposed using an auto gate scanner tool that can detect whether tourists have paid the fees or not. In the future, if possible, he said, we will try to collaborate with immigration again, because there is an auto scanner gate tool that is actually the key. By implementing this tool, he said, it's hoped that the levy absorption can reach 90%. Policy monitoring and evaluation is carried out once a month. The other day I said it was going to be twice a month, so who knows, once a month, twice a month. Pak Pamayun explained that the Bali provincial government previously set the initial tariff at 150,000 because tourism still in the recovery period, and considering what's going on in other destinations in the ASEAN region. Pak Pamayun emphasized that the levy funds were used according to regulations to preserve the Balinese environment and culture. And there's going to be more on that in another story. We at the tourism office are assigned according to regional regulations to collect and manage these funds, he explained. One of the main obstacles in implementing this levy is the imperfection in monitoring the system in the field. Initially, Bali's Governor's Regulation 36 of 2023 mandated the installation of an auto scanner device, or auto scanner devices, at airports to ensure that all tourists pay the fees before leaving the airport. He continued, after we were in the field, we invited the governor and regional secretary to look at it with the whole team. In the end, the regulation was changed to Bali Governor Regulation number 2 of 2024 because from the airport side, it was not possible to install these auto scanners because there was no space, apparently. To overcome this problem, the Tourism Office also carried out various outreach and coordination steps with various related parties such as embassies, foreign tourism agents, and hotels in Bali. Apart from reviewing the proposed increase in foreign tourist levies so that those who come are quality tourists, the Bali Tourism Department is also responding to the proposal to distribute incentives to institutions that help, because Bali Provincial Regulation number 6 of 2023 concerning levies for foreign tourists is designed to protect the culture and natural environment. Whatever the proposal is, we will review it again because we have to change the regional regulations, because the regional regulations are intended, well, to protect the environment and the culture, he said. And this is all in response to some wishes from Bali DPRD members for immigration and the police to receive incentives in order to carry all this out. So this increase is supposed to improve the quality of tourists coming to Bali. And it's supposed to also have an impact on foreigners, tourists who are not following the rules and who are creating, well, problems on the island. Chairman of Commission 2 of the Bali DPRD, Ego Gede Komang Krishna Budi, said that the current levies are not yet effective in selecting foreign tourists entering Bali. He said this levy on foreign tourists is not effective. That's why we want to increase the role of other sectors such as immigration and the police. He considers that the current levies are too low. He said, I think 150,000 rupees is too low, so that Bali seems like a cheap tourist destination. That's why we plan to increase it by $50. Okay, I don't know if they're going to use dollars here or rupees. As far as I know, when you talk about these kind of things, you're supposed to talk about them in rupees, not in dollars. And if you talk about them in dollars, what dollars? So here he's saying $50. If it's increasing by $50, and the exchange rate now is up over 16,000, well, that's a lot different than 750,000, unless you use 15,000. Anyway, you'd see what I mean. What are they using? Are they going to go by rupees? Are they going to go by US dollars? What are they going to go by? Anyway, he concludes, why should Bali be sold cheaply? So, indeed, this is another one of those equations where more money equals better behavior. But I think, as most of us know, that is not necessarily true. Proposal to increase fees for foreign tourists? Koster, not urgent at this time. So, former Governor Koster, governor from 2018 to 2023, stated that the proposal to increase the levy on foreign tourists to $50 is currently not urgent. Improving the system is the main thing that must be done rather than directly increasing tourist levies. The levy on foreign tourists in Bali, which has only been running since February 14th, shows that results are far from the target. And we talked about that in the previous story. Pak Koster says he doesn't think that it's 40%. He thinks it's only about a third of the tourists who are paying the levy. Former Governor Koster said that he believes that the condition of not getting all these foreigners to pay should encourage everybody, all the parties, to evaluate the existing system rather than immediately proposing to increase the current tourist levy rates. He said, I've given input to the acting governor to revise regional regulations, especially for cooperation with the airport, immigration, and hotels, which are the locus for determining tourist arrivals. He said this yesterday. According to him, the proposal to increase the tourist levy by $50 should be postponed because the existing regional regulation stipulates that the increase can be made no sooner than 2 years from its enactment. With a levy rate of $150,000 per person, which was started on the 14th of 2024, that means you couldn't do this until 2026. So you got to wait for 2 years, according to current regional regulations, as the former governor says. He also said that there's no urgency to do this without an in-depth study and how it is actually going to affect the level of tourist satisfaction and experience. Currently, Bali tourism is very competitive with other destinations in the ASEAN region, and raising the fees could have an adverse effect. Pak Koster also suggested that tourists should not be checked one by one directly in the field. I talked about this the other day, the plan to go out to tourist destinations twice a month and examine people. Can I see your proof that you've paid? And well, I said personally, I was against it. I would not want to have somebody come up and pester me about it. And Koster said that he agrees. Well, doesn't agree with me. He thinks that it should not be done because he feels it would be unsympathetic. He said maybe the system is not yet optimal, so foreign tourists cannot access it properly. Maybe some people don't even know about it. When he visits a tourist destination, he's asked questions. That's not very sympathetic. As I talked about previously, limited space at the airport is keeping them from installing these auto scanner gate equipment to check and see if you've paid your tax. Therefore, intensive cooperation is needed with the airport immigration and police with clear budget allocations for them. The system needs to be improved, he said, through changes in the regional regulations. And the Bali Province Tourism Office said that they're going to conduct a more in-depth study of the proposal to increase the fees for foreign tourists. And one more article on this. Use of U.S. $10 foreign tourist levy funds requested to be transparent. Researcher at the Center for Tourism Excellence at Udayana University said that he's requesting that the use of foreign tourist levy funds, which has been going now for, a little over 4 months, be transparent, be reported, and be reported transparently. He said up to now, the public doesn't know what these funds are being used for. He said there's never been an explanation from the government about how the money is used and how much has really come in. He said, I heard billions have come in, but what's it been used for? Is it being used to improve facilities? He considers the proposal from the Bali DPRD to increase the levy to US $50 as inappropriate. This is because the Bali provincial government has not provided concrete evidence of the results of these levies. He suggested that government allocate funds to roads that are still damaged. He said, there's roads in tourist areas, and he mentioned Nusa Penida as one place, that are not suitable for tourists to travel on. Why isn't the money being used to fix those? And of course, we've got the trash issue and a number of other issues that aren't being dealt with at this point, or it doesn't seem to be. And you've got to talk about the North Bali Airport, and you've got to talk about the LRT. So there's all this talk going on. In the meantime, hotels and villas still being constructed and restaurants all over the island, even though there are increasing calls from population to slow down. Personally, I don't think the increase in fees is going to go anywhere, certainly not at this point. Too many people worried about bringing in more and more and more tourists, and if you put $50 or 750,000 rupees or whatever currency you want to use, you put that on, you're going to lose a lot of people, I think. Particularly if you take a look at a family of 4 and what they would have to pay, just the tourist fees and the VOA, well, you're talking about a lot of money before you get to go anywhere, before you even leave the airport. Maybe younger single people would go, hey, okay, because Bali is known as a party place now. If we go way back, Bali was considered a mystical place, a place for dance, arts, creative culture. Over the years, it became the center for yoga. And we had yogis coming in from all over the world. And I guess they still come in. A friend of mine is a yogi, and he likes coming here to Bali from South Korea to do his yoga. And now, considered to be a party place down in Canggu. And I guess some places in Ubud, there's dance places all over the island, particularly though down in Canggu with the beach clubs, and so that's the reputation. And so, single people, are single people going to come if they have to pony up some more money to get in here? I don't know. So you got a lot of questions about this, but again, I think this is just one of those things that pops up, gets a lot of press, it's good clickbait, right? And then kind of fades into the sunset. Okay. Now, their main story, national data disruption. And wow, what happened? Okay, so I just heard about this from my wife this morning, and then I looked and saw a lot of stuff online about it. Apparently, the computers were not functional. Well, you couldn't access the data, and so immigration and the tax office were 2 places I know for sure were affected by this. And so let's talk about this. National data disruption raises concerns about RI digital infrastructure. The disruption to the National Data Center, PDN, that began on Thursday has resulted in delays in immigration processing and other public services and raised concerns about the quality and security of government-built digital infrastructure. The PDN was developed by the Communications and Information Ministry several years ago to integrate data from various government bodies at the central and regional levels with the aim of creating more efficient and transparent public services. The disruption to the platform was first reported on Thursday morning after immigration at the Soekarno-Hatta International Airport went down, forcing immigration officers to perform manual checks and resulting in long waits for travelers. The Immigration Directorate General announced on its official Instagram account later in the day that there was a temporary disruption to the PDN server that was impacting all immigration services. The Immigration Director General encouraged airline passengers to arrive at the airport early to ensure that they had time for longer immigration checks. Later in the day, the Communications Ministry issued a press release saying the problem with PDN had impacted various public services. According to the minister, we are currently working to fix the service gradually. I assure everyone that the team is doing its best to speed up the restoration. The ministry said the government-operated PDN system was employing cloud-based services and would do so until a data center in West Java was completed sometime later this year. That has a budget of 2.7 trillion rupiah, 163 million US dollars, more or less. The facility is designed to store and process government data to support more data-driven policymaking. It's going to have over 25,000 processing cores, 200 terabytes of memory, and up to 40 petabytes of storage. It will also be equipped with Tier 4 facilities, the highest security standards for data centers meant to ensure uninterrupted service. As of Friday morning, according to Tempo, airline passengers at the airport were still in Jakarta, and I think here as well, still unable to use the auto gate counters for immigration checks and had to go through all this manually. Besides immigration services, disruption has forced several schools to extend deadline for student registration and document submission for this year's public school enrollment. A digital forensics expert noted that two problems with the PDN had disrupted public services over the span of a year. In July last year, the data of more than 34 million Indonesian passport holders was reportedly breached by a pseudonymous hacker identified as Bjorka. The Immigration Directorate General said at the time that the immigration server on which the Indonesians' passport data was stored had already been integrated into the PDN system managed by the Communications Ministry. When looking at the characteristics of the latest incident on Thursday, it could be suspected that it was caused by a malware or ransomware attack that made the system inaccessible to the government, according to this forensics expert. This shows that the government, even through the Communications Ministry, is not prepared to safeguard its infrastructure for rampant cyber attacks. Institute for Policy Research and Advocacy Executive Director concurred, saying the implementation of PDN system appears to be too forceful. He said the ministry seems to insist on using the PDN right now without ensuring the robustness of the system or having a backup plan in case of disruption, like what happened now. He called on the government to conduct a thorough audit of the PDN system and prepare a mitigation plan that included not storing sensitive data on the PDN alone, but also on other servers so that critical public services, such as immigration, could continue to operate amid disruptions. So I hope you weren't coming into the airport, and I guess if you were at the immigration office, and I saw somebody said they had problems at the tax office. I was at the tax office earlier the week, getting my tax information transferred to my ID card, and things were working well there, and they were using the computer to check all of the stuff. And, well, apparently they couldn't. As of now, this is Saturday at 1 o'clock. I don't know if it is up and running yet. I haven't seen any recent news on that. But hopefully it will get going soon, and I hope that the data that the government has is going to be protected. That's it. Thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.